And now, if you would please be the first to address the next question. Thanks so much. The audience members this evening would like to know more about what each of you brings to the business relationships, business partnerships through your experience here in St. Paul to strengthen businesses in St. Paul. Eva, if you'd be the first to address the question.
Repeat that question for me, please.
The audience members tonight are interested to know about your previous business experience, what experiences you've had working with other businesses, and what you will bring from that experience to the city of St. Paul.
I have 30 years of experience in the private sector, and 20 of them with Fortune 100 companies. And in those 20 years, I spent 10 years as a presidential fast tracker, troubleshooter, internal consultant for Texaco. And I got into that position because I was doing stuff that nobody else knew how to do. When nobody knew how to operate laptops, I was the first to embrace the DOS system. I was one of the first people to set up local area networks, and I learned how to set up wide area networks by going to a library and finding out overnight and then coming back and setting it up. So they identify me as a fast tracker. So anytime there's a department that has trouble, they pretty much throw me in, and I had to figure out everything on my own. And in about 2.5 to 3 years, I've identified the problems, implemented the systems, documented everything, trained somebody else in, and left and gone to something else. And then I came out of Texaco, and for 10 years, I turned small to mid-sized businesses around. They're roughly 2 to 20 million in size. I mean, this is fiscal, this is manufacturing, marketing, personnel, on and on and on. And I did that for 10 years. And then also a CEO of a small business here in Egan. And we went through every single struggle that you can possibly have gone through, because manufacturing has been down 80 to 90% in the United States in the last 10 years. And we managed to double our volume. So I think I can speak to the experience here.
Thank you. Chris Coleman, same question.
One of the things that I've been able to do over the last 4 years is to really listen to the business community, to understand what their priorities were, and to help achieve those priorities. When I came into office, one of the #1 priorities of the Chamber of Commerce was to get a flood wall protection for home and field. It was critically important to businesses like Travelers. It was critically important to Gander Mountain, that had actually chosen to come into downtown St. Paul because of the proximity to that airport. It is critically important to 3M and other companies. That project had been stalled out for 4 years. The previous mayor couldn't get it done because he was at loggerheads with the city council. They couldn't address the environmental concerns at the same time they were addressing the business concerns. We got together, we sat down in a room, we addressed the concerns, and we got that project done. The second priority of the Chamber of Commerce is the light rail line. The #1 priority of the Chamber of Commerce for decades in the city of St. Paul was to get that light rail line built. We're moving it forward. We're finally getting it done after 30 years worth of discussion. We have continued to work with the Chamber of Commerce and other businesses to try to advance high-speed rail to make sure that St. Paul is the center of transportation in the East Metro area. We work through big issues and small issues. We work through difficult challenges around trying to get Trader Joe's built. A very, very difficult challenge for the business community, critically important. We work with businesses to get that done. Lifetime Fitness was one of those things that just seemed like such a simple thing that a business like Lifetime Fitness, or Anytime Fitness rather, those 24-hour fitness centers couldn't open up in the city of St. Paul because of an oddity in the law. We worked with the business community to change that, and we got it done. We have very, very good relationships with the business community.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of our audience members for the submission of the wonderful questions this evening. And I would now like to allow our candidates to move forward with their closing statements. Each candidate will be permitted 2 minutes for their closing statements. And based on the drawing earlier this evening, Chris Coleman, if you'd be the first to address your closing statements.
Well, again, I want to thank the league, and I want to thank Eva for her participation in the debate tonight. The only thing that we were missing was I wish I would have had a little foot heater here, because it is freezing up here. I'm dying. You know, I spent a lot of time talking about some of the big things, the things that you see in the paper, the 500 jobs that we saved at Rock 10, the movement that we have on light rail line, the flood wall down at Home and Field, Crave, Microsoft, all those things. We spent a lot of time talking about those because in some ways that's what people know about and that's what they want to hear. But the job of mayor over the last 4 years has really been kind of surprising to me in some ways. And the most surprising aspect of it is what you can do for people that you meet. What you can do for an individual who just need some assistance and a little direction to figure out how they can avoid a foreclosure. What you can do when you go to a high school to proclaim a day for a young girl struggling with cancer. What you can do to a young boy or for a young boy where he's at a crossroads in his life. The best example of that was a couple of years ago. I was coming out of my office, and as I was walking through the entranceway, there was a young man standing with his father. And that young man had been told to go home that day from school because he had gotten in a fight. And his dad took him around to different places in the city where kids were hanging out and they were up to no good. And then he brought him down to the mayor's office. He was trying to convey to his son there were two paths that he could choose. So I brought the child into the office. I had him sit in the mayor's seat. I had him start talking about what it would be like to be mayor. And at the end of that visit, that child walked away, clearly understanding that he had a better option than the one that he had been choosing. You can have a tremendous impact as mayor of the city of St. Paul. I think that I have. But sometimes it's the impact that you don't see that's the most important. I've been proud to be mayor of this city. I ask for your support.
Thank you. EvaNg, your closing remarks.
Thanks to the League for putting this nice forum together. I really appreciate it. It's very well run. And thank you, Mayor Coleman, for coming. I appreciate you for humoring me on at least one of the 7 debates, right? In closing, citizens of St. Paul, we face a time of economic uncertainty, unemployment rates approaching 10%, businesses fleeing, and residents leaving. As a result, we have nearly 30% office space vacancies downtown, an estimated 2,000 to 4,000 foreclosed or abandoned homes, and a much heavier tax fee burden on each resident and commercial entity. I am running for mayor of St. Paul because I believe that my experience over the past 30 years in turning around difficult situations, making the most out of every dollar, and influencing others to right the ship is exactly what St. Paul needs at this specific time in our history, in the mayor's office. We must pull St. Paul out of this downward spiral by first freezing the property tax rate and fee increases, followed by finding ways to reduce them. We then have to create jobs. We have to also ensure that our neighborhoods are safe and secure. You are dealing with an incumbent who has already mentally checked out of the mayor's office since March of 2009 and has been running for governor or lieutenant governor on your payroll. There's a lot of work waiting to be done for the people, and we need a full-time mayor. Someone like me who has no other agenda than to serve the people of St. Paul with all my heart, all my might, and all that I am. On November 3rd, I ask for your support and your vote. My website is evaformayor.com. Thanks so much for coming. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Again, I'd like to remind all of you that the views expressed in this forum are those of your candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. And the sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement of the sponsorship of either of your candidates. Especially thanks to the audience. I know it's so hard to sit on your hands when we're talking about these exciting topics. I really appreciate the respect that you showed your candidates this evening. A special thanks to the Highland Park Library and Rec Center for allowing us to use this beautiful facility this evening. And a particular thank you to candidates Chris Coleman and EvaNg. These candidates are serving the community by their willingness to participate in the democratic process by running for office, and I'd like to show my appreciation for them as well. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful